Good morning everybody, welcome to today's edition of Jackanory. You'll see I've returned to the kitchen. Now this of course is meant to be the Cranky's kitchen. It's our school kitchen, but we're going to use this as our setting for this particular chapter in the story. Today we're looking at Marvellous Medicine number 2. You might remember yesterday Mr Killy Cranky was trying to recreate the first Marvellous Medicine. Now George wasn't sure if he got all the same ingredients correct, but they're going to have a go at making a second Marvellous Medicine with potentially the same sort of results. But you never know, things might go slightly different this time. Here we go. This is chapter 12 in the book, Marvellous Medicine number 2. They were in the kitchen now, and their big saucepan was on the stove. All the things Mr Cranky had bought were lined up near the sink. And you can see here the same sorts of potions as last time. "Come along, my boy," cried Mr Killy Cranky. "Which one do you put in first?" It's this one, Dad," said George. "Golden Gloss Hair Shampoo." And he emptied the bottle into the saucepan. "Now the toothpaste," George went on. "And the shaving soap. And the face cream, very important face cream. And of course, lots of nail varnish, Dad, as well," said George, getting rather excited himself. "That's great, keep at it, my boy," cried Mr Cranky, and he was still dancing around the kitchen in absolute excitement and joy at the thought of the Marvellous Medicine. "Keep putting them in, don't stop, don't pause, don't hesitate. It's a pleasure, my dear son, to watch you at work." One by one, George poured and squeezed the things into the saucepan. With everything so close at hand, the whole job didn't take him more than about 10 minutes. But when it was all done, the saucepan didn't somehow seem to be quite as full as it had been the first time around. "Now, what do you do next, son? Do you stir it?" I boiled it up, Dad, but not for long, and I stirred it as well." So Mr Cranky lit the gas under the saucepan, and George stirred the mixture with his long wooden spoon, the same one he'd used before. "It's not brown enough, Dad." "Wait a minute, I know what I've forgotten." "What have you forgotten, son? Tell me quick, because if we've forgotten even one tiny thing, then it is not going to work. At least not in the same way as before." "I used some brown gloss paint," George said. "That's what I've forgotten." Mr Cranky shot out of the house into his car like a rocket, sped down to the village, bought the paint and rushed back again. I'm going to do that now. Bye. Exhausted, he walked back into the kitchen with the paint. He opened the can in the kitchen and he handed it to George. George poured the paint into the saucepan. "Ah, that's now better, Dad. That's more like the right colour." "It's boiling," cried Mr Cranky. "It's boiling, it's bubbling. George, is it ready yet?" Yeah, it's ready, Dad. At least I hope it is." "Right," shouted Mr Cranky, hopping about. Let's test it. Let's give it to a chicken. We're going to give this to a chicken." "Calm down," cried Mr Cranky. You expect me to calm down? I can't calm myself down. How can I calm myself down? But I know I must be calm. It's so exciting. We're mixing up the greatest medicine ever discovered in the history of the world. I can't calm down." "Come along, George. Dip a cupful out of the saucepan and get a spoon, and we'll give it to a chicken outside. We want to make sure we've got it just right. Outside in the yard, there were several chickens that hadn't had any of George's marvellous medicine #1. They were pecking around in the dirt in the way that silly chickens do. Shall I do my chicken impression? I like doing chicken impressions. Okay, ready? You get your arms like this, you see, and then you peck. And there's the chicken. There we go. You've all got to do that at home now. It's very important, okay? There's a famous comedian called Norman Collier who made a whole career on that. Ask your mum and dad and grandma and granddad about him. There we go. Don't forget the chicken impressions. Anyway, back to the story. George crouched down, holding out a spoonful of marvellous medicine #2. Come on, chicken. Go, chicken. Chick, 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 chicken. A white chicken with black specks on its feathers looked up at George curiously. It walked over to the spoon and went peck. Whoop, whoop. The effect that medicine #2 had on this chicken, well, it wasn't quite the same as the effect produced by medicine #1, but it was interesting. Whoosh! Shrieked the chicken, and it shot 6 feet up in the air and came back down again. Then sparks this time came flying out of its beak, bright yellow sparks of fire, as though someone was sharpening a knife on a grindstone inside its tummy. Then its legs began to grow longer and longer and longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. Its body stayed the same size, but the 2 thin yellow legs were getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. What's happening to it, son? Cried Mr Killicranky. Oh, something's wrong, Dad. The legs went on growing, and the more they grew, the higher into the air the chicken's body went. When the legs were about 15 feet long, that's very, very high. That's kind of the height of, kind of 1.5 rooms in your house. The chicken stopped growing at that point. It looked perfectly absurd with its long, long legs and its ordinary little body perched high up on the top. It was like a chicken that was standing on stilts that you might see in a circus. "Oh, my sainted aunts!" cried Mr Killicranky. "We've got it wrong. The chicken's no good to anybody. It's all legs. No one wants chickens that are all legs." "Oh, Dad, I must have left something out," George said. "I know you did leave something out," cried Mr Cranky. "Think, boy, think. What was it you left out?" "I've got it. I have got it, Dad." "What was it? Quick." "It was flea powder for dogs." "You mean you put flea powder in the first one?" "Yes, Dad, I did. A whole carton of it." "Then that is the answer." "Wait a minute," said George. "Do we have brown shoe polish on our list as well?" "We did not," said Mr Cranky. "I used that as well, Dad." "Well, son, no wonder it's gone wrong and it's all leg," said Mr Cranky. He was already running off to his car, and soon he was heading down to the village to this time buy more flea powder and brown shoe polish. He went out this door. I will find out what he did when he came back from the village tomorrow, as they make Marvellous medicine #3. Stay tuned, take care, see you for Jackanory tomorrow.